how did it all start?
It all started as this little boy. No.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
29.
Yeah.
Okay. You've
Yeah.
achieved so much for 29.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Like, it's pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Let's dig in. So, 29, always lived in Newcastle?
Always lived in Newcastle. I kind of transitioned. So it started off, I left school when I was 14.
Oh, that's early.
Yeah.
I left
it
at
was early.
16 and I thought that was early.
I know. And I look at 14-year-olds now and go, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
Was that
Like,
me?
you're
Leaving
little.
school? Yeah,
You're a
it's
little
crazy.
kid.
Like, yeah. So I left school when I was 14. I moved to a little place called Cranback. And it's in between Gloucester and Nabiac. It's a rural suburb and little country town. It's got a pub and little post office. And I started a trade as an apprentice carpenter.
Okay.
That's
What was that by force? Like, were you expelled? Did you hate school?
Yeah, I got expelled. So
Really?
I got expelled, yeah. And I remember Dad to this day. I was sitting down in front of the principal's office, and he turned up super grumpy. Was like, "What did you do?" And anyway, he walked probably in.
Just bash some kid.
Yeah, He probably walked in as fast as he walked out.
Wow.
And then he said,
Really?
"Rightio, that guy's a dickhead. Let's go. What do you want to do?" And I said, I want to become a carpenter. My dad was a carpenter, right? He was a builder. I've seen success from it. My dad actually lost a lot of money when I was 4 years old. My parents divorced. So I grew up with single parent. And I kind of seen the wealth that was created before my parents lost it all. So I knew how much money can be made inside property, whether in real estate or whatever.
really?
But I wasn't, you're 14. You kind of didn't know what a real estate agent was. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
So, I seen that. And I said, I want to be a carpenter. And the first thing Dad said, he looked me in the eyes and said, no, you fucking don't.
Wow. Straight up.
Straight up. So it's, I shot off, man. I went up there. I lived with Dad.
Wow.
Super humble home. And yeah.
How was
Kicked
it
it off.
growing up with the single parents? Was that tough?
It was tough, man. Mum worked 3 jobs.
Three
So
jobs.
she was studying to be a counsellor. She's now head counsellor for SIDS and Kids, who's like Australian organisation for stillbirths, babies that are, pass away at birth and so forth. So she's done really well for herself now. But back then, man, growing up, I remember running out of fuel driving to the beach. It's pretty heavy. So Mum worked as a cleaner at night. So she worked for Freedom Furniture. And then at night, she used to clean the place. So she'd knock off, pick me up from school, drive me back, and I used to help clean, So, yeah, it was, I guess, it was hard, man. It was super hard. And then you looked at kids around you and looked what they had. So you're always looking, going, fuck, how come I don't have that? I want that. You know what I mean? So,
What do you reckon is been the driver for you?
definitely money.
Yeah.
I think that comes down
But
to
like, where does
everyone.
that come? What is it? Given the fact that you've gone through growing up with single parents and went without, like what do you think started that for you?
Yeah, definitely that. 100%. I think anyone that comes from nothing and I guess starts to make a bit of money, it's very addictive. And I think that especially when, you don't come from money, it's you want everything. Like, dude, my wakeboard boat, I was sitting out on it a couple of weekends ago and I was with a mate and I looked at him and went, fuck, dude, this is unreal. I turned to my missus, my fiance, and said, babe, like, fuck, that we used to dream of this shit. Like, especially me, I used to drive past cars and go, wow, like, imagine owning that boat. Like,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a different life now.
Now you got
Yeah.
like 3-4 of the best cars in town.
Yeah. I love it. It's, yeah.
So what motivates you now then?
What motivates me is growth.
Yeah.
Like what type of growth?
Just growth inside myself.
Yeah.
I think like everyone needs to grow and learn. And mate, I probably hats off to my fiance, hey, in the way that I've grown a lot. Like, especially from when you're 18 and you start generating wealth.
So did you build the wealth together? Like,
You're together, yeah. Yeah. She pushed me hard, yeah.
How so? How did she push you?
Well, I started off, so 14, carpenter.
Yep.
Lived up at Dad's. You're kind of doing the 14, 15, 16-year-old thing. You kind of going out drinking with friends and so forth. And then it got to about 18. I finished my apprenticeship. And I
Just
went.
when everyone's starting theirs.
That's right.
Wow.
And I went into. I kind of learnt early on, and I think that's where kind of leads to the career that I'm in now. Is I learnt that sales is where it's at in any industry.
Yep.
So I started a traineeship straight after my apprenticeship in car sales, and it was for Toyota. Yeah.
You've gone off 18 years old.
Wait, why? Why did you go from being fully qualified, about to be on big bucks, to car sales?
It's funny you say that, and I'll probably touch on that later in this convo, but I think I always wanted to do it and tell the true story. And I think I've had a chat with you, Beardle, about this. And kind of when you do it, you can honestly tell the true story. It's no bullshit. A lot of people tell the story, but it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm not about.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I wanted to make money. I thought, sales straight away. I was looking up things, and like still to this day, it's the highest paying role in sales. So, I jumped into something where I had an opportunity. So I went straight into car sales, and I remember on the first day, everyone says, "Oh, you got the gift of the gab," and it's like, not really. I can probably just talk. So I jumped in on the first day and kind of hit it off with all the guys, and then I was selling cars the next week.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Straight away.
Yeah. I gravitated to it. Hey, I just loved it, and I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't probably even know what sales meant.
Yeah.
Like,
So you're 18 at that time?
18 at that time. Yeah.
Wow. How long did you stay there
Just
for?
18. So I stayed there for probably about a year.
Yeah.
Just a bit under a year. And it would have been 19. I remember I was kind of like, okay, I'm over that. I didn't really see growth. When you're just kind of stuck in a role, whether it's a business, job, whatever it may be. And I just felt like there was I kind of wasn't going anywhere. I was stagnated. And I felt like, it was a bit of a lid on the opportunity there. So I kind of moved around a little bit. I wanted to get into the mines because you hear people say, "Oh, get into the mines. It's the best thing." So, I listened to people and I thought, you know what? I can probably make a good wage in the mines. I can save. I can do the 5-year plan, and I can buy a property. So I was looking out for these mining jobs. My brother at the time was in Western Australia and he was in the mines. And anyway, he couldn't really get me in there. He was trying and it didn't work out. So I started a role with West Track, which is in Newcastle. And I was there for a while, hated it. And I was just like stagnated on life. I was like, fuck, like, what do I do?
What was that role for you?
So that was on the long walls. So it's like the belts that run the coal from underground to obviously the surface. But we're actually just in a shed building these long walls. Yeah, for West Track at the time.
Yeah. And in terms of actually being able to save and what have you, did that help bring that bank account up to put yourself in the right position for the first property?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. No.
I love cars, man.
Yeah, the money pits. The money pits.
I love cars and motorbikes, and I was like 18, 19, and I was buying stupid stuff, I don't regret it.
No.
I definitely don't regret it.
Have fun.
That's right. And kind of from there, I remember my brother was going through a pretty hard time. He just separated with his partner. And I thought, I've just got to take the jump. Like, it's no good here. I've got to go over there. I can be there for him and get an opportunity to get in the mines. So I remember, this is pretty funny. So I remember at the time I had a VL Commodore. Does anyone know what a VL Commodore is? So Ben, if I had that car right now, that car would actually be worth $90,000 as is.
Really?
But I was struggling to sell that thing for $2,500 to try to scrape up to buy a plane ticket to Western Australia.
Crazy.
So I finally sold that, jumped on a plane, flew over, started living with my brother. And then I got an opportunity in the mines working underground with Bort Longyear. They're an underground drill service.
Oh, wow.
So I kicked it off there, and it was an army camp. Have any of you guys had friends, family, or that have gone to the mines?
Nah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's pretty hectic. Like hats off to people that are in the mines, because it's definitely like it's a full camp. Like, it's like you're in the army. Like,
So you don't leave?
you don't leave. I was doing 1 month on, 2 weeks off at the
Wow,
time. I was
that's brutal.
It was brutal, man. And I kind of put my hand up for that. So it was 2 weeks on, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. That was the option, or month on, 2 weeks off. And I was like, nah, need to make money. Like, I'm over here to do that. Let's just rip in. So I started off, with that. Flew out to site. Was kind of this young guy. Didn't have any friends over there. Didn't know what to expect. You're like hanging out with all these older dudes. And it was okay for like the first, I guess, couple of months. And then I started to really listen to people around me. And I was like, okay. There's like guys that have been through this so many times, like through marriages or whatever, and they've tried to save that 5-year plan and it hasn't worked out.
Oh, too much of a hit on the personal life?
Yeah.
On a strain where it went
I think
wrong?
so. I think so. I think like a lot of people in the mines, it's pretty brutal on their
It'll
relationship.
play with your head.
100%. Yeah.
And do you spend a lot of the money you do earn because you're so kind of isolated in there?
Yeah. I was traveling to Bali all the time, man. We were in the thing. I was having like some hell times. I was partying as much as I could, because you miss your friends, right? So I started I met a group of friends in Perth and from the mine, so we'd fly back in, and all you wanted to do was party. So that's what we did, right? And then by the time the 2 weeks was up, you're kind of recovering, and then you're back into it.
Oh, no.
So it was a bit of a it probably wasn't the best thing to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so finish up at the mines, and then where'd you head from there?
So the mine. So from there, kind of, I met Gabby. That's where I met Gabby.
Yeah, at the mines?
Really?
No, not at the mines. I met her in Perth, in Western Australia.
Wow.
So I met her there at a nightclub. That was a bonus. So
Sweet.
the partying did work out for me for a little bit.
Perfect.
And I met Gabby there, and I was hating the mines, hey. Absolutely hating it. I had some money banked up, not much, but I had enough. And I remember this one swing that I was going back, and we had an argument or something, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not going back, eh? And I just pulled the pin on it. She thought I was absolutely fucking crazy because I was probably only with her for like 3 months or something.
Oh, wow, you're kidding.
So
You're
she's
head
like,
over heels straight away.
Yeah, this guy's fucking going for it. So I just shut up shop. But I think it was also like, it was the right time. And
Yeah.
I was just like, this is crap.
She was
you know?
the tipping point.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And then from there, I was kind of a bit lost. I was like, fuck, what do I do? Like, what am I going to do now? And I was missing home, like 100%. So I said, all right, I'm going home. Like, I need to get back to Newcastle and see my family and my parents. And I flew back, and Gabby's like, look, let's just see how it works. And then, if all goes good, I'll fly back over. So I came back, and I was like, right, I need to get into it. I need to rip in. And I started off working for a builder again. And this stage I was 20. So I was working for a builder and kind of getting set up, man. Like, we're living in this dingy apartment. Like, I was living in this studio apartment, and Gabby flew over. And I was, just been a builder for probably like 6 months. And I was like, fuck. Like, when you're just at a point where I was just at this point where I was like, where do I go from here? Like, I was a bit lost, and like, because, my parents, they're separated and everyone's doing their own thing. My brother and sisters are older. I kind of didn't have any guidance. So I was kind of a bit lost, if that makes sense. And like now, these days, you have like, well, not these days, I'm only 29, but like now, if you were 18 to 20 right now, I feel like you've got a bit more support.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And I think it's a lot more talked about now, though, too, which is kind of spurred it on. Like, I see a lot of younger guys having mentors and that sort of stuff. They're having a rebounding board.
yeah,
essentially.
definitely.
And like I've got you where you didn't have you
Correct.
to have as well.
Yeah, like
So
there
what was that
no,
like when you were, what was it like when you were there
as in
in that
like,
situation?
there was just no young guys. Like, if I could, you know, when I was 20, talk to a like 29-year-old that, you know, was doing good, fuck, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, social media sped that on. A
Yeah,
lot.
100%. So I think, like, what was around then? I don't think Instagram was 9 years ago. Was it around?
Would have probably just in the infancy
Just
stages.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of, like a little bit lost there. Gabby moved back. She was working, Gabby's a beautician. So she was working just at a random beautician locally. And she was hating it. And I was fucking, that was tearing me up inside. Like, I was like, fuck, like, I need to make money. Like, I need to support it, you know what I mean? Like, so from there, I remember it was a family friend, right? And he reached out to me because he knew that I was really good at project management. And at that period of time, I was actually doing my project management certificate.
Yeah.
So it's one really good thing that I did during that period where I was a little bit lost. I had studied and completed that. And he reached out to me and he said, you know, let's set up this company, blah, blah, blah. I was 20. I'm like, fuck, set up a company. Let's go. Like, let's make some money, you know?
Yeah.
So I went all in and I had a certain amount of money saved. And I said, all right, I'll put this money in. And this guy was a lot older than me. Like, this guy now is probably, you know, late 50s. And we started to set up this company and it was like, you know, when you just get a feeling like you're starting to do something with someone and you just get a weird feeling. And it was just that gut feeling and I've always followed it. And I just thought, fuck, what's going on? Like, something's happening. And he had this really successful, like really big building company previously. And we were going around, like, so we started this business and we were going around and we were fixing up his jobs that he kind of went when he went bust with this other building company. And there was an investor involved and everything. And I got really close to the investor. So here's the 29-year-old me, right? So this guy's 35. I finally meet this investor. I'm fishy about this other guy who was kind of family friends. And anyway, we drive over to this investor's house, right? And at the time, he's probably 35, 36. This guy's living in like, this is probably like, what, 9 years ago? This guy's living in a $5 million house, Bar Beach Avenue, Newcastle. He's got the Range Rovers. Like, this is when Range Rovers, you didn't have them. Like, this was Kanye West, Kim Kardashian type shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, these
Told
were
him
they
one.
probably were just landing in Australia. Like,
Yeah.
if you had one of them, it was like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
So I really looked up to this guy. I'm like, fuck, I need to make money like that, you know? And then
Real money.
yeah, real money. And this guy was in like a total different industry. Like, this guy was doing like stuff with shipping containers and so forth, you know? So I was like, fuck, this guy's doing this. And it's such a, I guess, a niche market, like a bit of a random market, you know? Like,
Yeah.
now shipping containers, you're building houses, doing all this thing. But he was just kicking that off. And this guy's turning over like 28, 38 million like a year, you know? Like,
Yeah, dinkum.
so anyway, started hanging out with him a lot more, hanging out in his fucking mansion. He had a big place. It's still there, Bar Beach Ave. I think it sold for recently maybe 6.8 or 6.9 or something. So he, and I remember kind of, I was just getting tips and advice off him. Like, what do I do here? How do I do it? Blah, blah, blah. And then it just started getting better, dude. We were going out in his Riviera. He had this like $2 million Riviera. We drove it. I remember we drove it from here, from Sydney to Newcastle. And I'm just like, whoa, like, you know, it's starry eyed. Like, and yeah, so that kind of happened for a little bit. And I kind of like because I was getting so educated from him, right? And I'm looking up to this younger guy that's very successful. I kind of let that slide a little bit. So the stuff with, the guy that we had the business with, and, I thought, if he's cool, maybe I'm just tripping, like maybe it's not that bad. So time went on and I noticed that they were a bit funny. And he started to get a bit jealous, this other guy, about our relationship, right? Because he's like, Joe's young, he's fucking 20 and he's hanging out with this multi-millionaire. and we're having hell times, don't get me wrong. And it came to this day where I was like, nah, I need to tell him. Like, I need to go to this guy and
the investor and
tell him, I think this guy's ripping us. But I had this feeling I didn't want to ruin it, like I didn't want to ruin this opportunity. So I remember like driving around, right? I'm like, I've got to go to his house. And I'm fucking driving around Merriweather Bar Beach and I'm like, fuck, I can't go. And I'd like get into the street and then go, no, I can't do it. And I'd turn away. And then I got into the street. This is like probably the 5th time of circling the block, right? And I thought, fuck, I'm like kind of like a stalker now, eh? So I remember pulling into the street and he pulled out with his lawnmower and he seen me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go then. So he started to mow his lawn and I said, bro, I need to have a chat to you. And he's like, yeah, what's up? And he took me upstairs to his office and we sat down and, I just kind of told him how I felt and what I felt was going on. And he was like, hats off to him. Like, he didn't really enter into it too much. He like listened to what I said, but he wasn't, like, I guess, saying, yeah, I agree. Like, you know what I mean? Which I think is pretty cool. Like, I think if you're in a situation until you fully know the details, even if you do have the same gut feeling when you're in a business arrangement, you should kind of, cover people a little bit. So he was like, yeah, right. And then, a week went on and it started to crumble. And I got a phone call off this guy and he said, oh, yeah, dude, kind of just got to talk to you about something. And I was like, yeah, what's that? And he said, well, yeah, we're going to wrap it up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Dude, I'm living in a penthouse at this stage, right? We're going all right. Like,
you were in a penthouse?
Yeah, we're in a penthouse in town in Hunter Street, Gabby and I. So Gabby was still working at a beautician. I remember I bought my first BMW. Gabby and I bought it together. It was this drop top, fucking like 335i or something. Like, and that thing was dope, hey? I bought it here from Sydney. And I remember pulling out and it was just, it was surreal, right? So we were going okay for like 20 years of age. Like, we're living in a
bit more than okay.
Yeah, we're living in a penthouse. It was like just kind of kicking off. And that kind of only happened at that stage, right? Because I was getting a really good wage, plus I was getting, certain things from that business that we're setting up, and I was promised shares and so forth. And whilst I was kind of doing it, it's going to kind of come back a little bit. But whilst I was kind of doing it, it's all flooding back to me, is I started to know like the niches. So we had this model. It wasn't just a building company, right? We had this model where it was like we were doing properties for real estate agents to kind of do up for resale, if that kind of makes sense. Like we would get past the referral from the real estate agent to do it. And it just didn't make sense, right? I was just like, this fucking doesn't make sense. What people want is people want to know how to renovate these fucking houses and make money from them. That's what they want. And people still want it today. And so when that kind of was happening, I got the phone call and I remember I walked out on my veranda of this penthouse, right? And I had 2 verandas. I had one out the front that looked over the water at Honeysuckle, and I had one out the back that looked over the back of Hunter Street. And I walked out the back Hunter Street because I didn't want Gabby to hear me. And he said to me, oh, yeah, we're kind of wrapping things up. And I said, so what does that mean? And he said, well, it means we finish up and you return the ute and that's it. I'm like, are you fucking serious, bro? I'm like, man, I think I've got like, and at that stage I was 20, I think they owed me like maybe 40K or something.
Wait,
like,
so is this the business partner?
Yeah, this is the business
He didn't
partner.
give you a reason?
Kind of that it wasn't working out. Like, but I knew shit was happening. Like, he was getting caught on, the investor was catching on that, you know, he was being a bit shady. Oh, no. I kind of brought it up with the investor. The investors probably said something to him. Like, I actually think the investor did say something to him. And then it kind of snowballed from there. The investor drew the money out. Like, you know what I mean?
Geez.
It kind of snowballed, and it was like no notice.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on my veranda. I've just bought a fucking BMW, dude. Like, I'm paying this thing off. And we're living in that penthouse, or renting the penthouse, by the way. We didn't own it.
Yeah.
And
how much was the penthouse per week?
Man, it was like fairly heavy. I think it was like $700 back then, $750. Like 10 years ago, bro. That's like $2K now. Like, that was a fair bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like paying in rent, right?
It's huge.
And, so I remember that we had a trip booked, Gabby and I, to Bali, and that phone call happened, and I just was like, "Fuck!" My gut just dropped, and I've walked inside, and Gabby's making dinner. She's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "No, nothing, dude. We fly out in a week, eh?" And I went and seen this. This is when I first started getting into business coaching, and it wasn't really around. And I seen this guy, and he coached a lot of people. And I don't know if you've heard of, but his practice is like kinesiology. Like, they work on the body's trigger points and like past trauma and, you know, all these other things.
Yeah, really.
And I didn't know back then what the fuck this was, right?
I don't know what it is now.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy was very successful. I got put onto him, got referred to him. He was multi-millionaire, lost everything, went again, you know, found this kinesiology where he could actually dig into people's past life and not kind of that trippy, but like kind of into their past traumas and so forth, and work out like money blocks and stuff like that. You know, when you have a money block and it's because your dad said, oh, you know, you won't make over 100 grand because I didn't, or something like that, you know. And I remember I went to him and I was like, full emotional, dude. Like, I'm just like, fuck, like 20, I've like had a crack and this guy's fucked me, and like, fuck, what's there left? I got to tell my missus we're finally starting to do half decent, and now I've got to tell her, oh, we're not going to go on holiday because like I'm fucked. And then so I went to see him. It drew out a bit longer, and he said to me, Joe, what I want you to do, I want you to go on your trip to Bali. I'm like, I got $5 grand to my name. Like, I don't have much money. Like, that trip's going to cost $5 grand. And he's like, I want you to go on the trip. What I want you to do after this meeting, I want you to hop in your car and I want you to look at your steering wheel of your BMW. And he said, do you know what BMW stands for? And like, you know, I was like, no at the time. And he said it stands for best man wins, which it doesn't, right? It does not stand for best man wins.
What does it stand for?
What does it stand for?
Is it British Motorworks or something?
Motorworks, that's it. And anyway, I was like, I laughed. Anyway, he's like, when you look at that steering wheel, I want you to drive around. I want you to do as many quotes as you can. And I want you to look at that steering wheel and read best man wins. And I was like, fuck, it's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
Like, so it really motivated me, and I'm like, fuck it. He goes, because what's there to lose? Like, you drive around now and you go do these quotes and you go meet these people, you go introduce yourself. What's there to lose? So I'm like, fuck yeah, right, I'm going for it. Like, so I got super hungry after that, like fully motivated me. I walked out of there, I called my cousin, he was a graphic designer. I said, dude, I need a logo and I fucking need it now. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm starting a business. He's like, what? I'm like, long story short, I've just been fucked. I'm about to lose a heap of money. And dude, I was getting phone calls of debt collectors, hey, wanting to repossess this BMW. Like, it was bad. Like,
you went that far.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to go work for someone. Like, I was just like,
jeez,
fuck this, I'm here, I'm going for it.
But at that point, I feel like people wouldn't take the risk. That'd be the worst point to take it when you have no wage and no money.
100%. There was times where I was like, that's right. Well, there was like, man, I was getting job opportunity. Like, I got offered. Like, I could have went and got a job.
Wouldn't you? Why not take that when that's a safe option?
Because it's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
It's a safe option. And I came from nothing, so what's there to lose?
Yeah.
That was my mentality.
Yeah.
It's still my mentality right now. I've got stuff to lose now, obviously. Like, I've got a beautiful fiance and obviously
do you make
calculated risk now.
Do you make decisions differently now?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And do you think that's mainly due to the fact that you have assets now?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And we've got to look after each other, bro. Like, she's a very successful lady as well. She's got a really successful business.
Yeah.
So it was like, I had nothing to lose. So I remember getting off the phone to Tom. I'm like, bro, you need to make me a fucking logo, get this thing going. And then I was like driving around. I'm like, what am I going to call it? And I'm like, fuck. So I remember, like, we talk about Bar Beach a lot, right? Because Bar Beach is a pretty, you kind of drive past it a lot in Newcastle. It's not that big. And I remember driving down the hill, Memorial Drive, Bar Beach, and I'm watching the sun go down. I'm like, what am I going to call this thing? And I'm like, who do you call? Like, and it was like the Ghostbusters thing. I'm like, I had it in my head for something. I'm like, who do you call? And I'm like, the Tradie Army. And I'm like, what the fuck, the Tradie Army? I'm like, fuck, this makes sense. It's an army of trades, and I'm going to supply the trades, right? This is what I thought in my head. And I was like, I'm going to supply the trades. It's a one-stop shop. Because when I was in that building company, the one where they left me high and dry, or that one guy did, not the investor, still friends with that guy today, and I call him my brother. I guess, there was a niche there that I felt that people had to organise all these different trades, and it got very difficult. And especially for wealthy people, they don't want to fucking do that shit. No. They want to call a one-stop shop. And they want to get the plumber, they want to get the thing, they want to just have it all organised, right? And most of them don't give a fuck what they pay as long as it's a good quality job. So I was like, Tradie Army, it works. And then my cousin just went ham on this logo, hey, and it turned out epic. And then he, like, man, still to this day, I think that guy, like, he's incredible at what he does. And he came over to our house, he was helping us, we were shouting him dinner, like, anyway, Gabby started to catch on but didn't really know. I'm just like, I'm going to set up this business and then, like, I'm going to do this and that at the same time. And in my head, I was like now I look back and I'm like, how the fuck did she believe that? Like, I was like running another business. I'm setting up like an identical business. And anyway, so my cousin did that for free, and because I had fuck all money. And we hopped on the flight, and it was with my best friend and his wife now. It was his girlfriend at the time. And we've gone over there, and for some reason, I did not give a fuck. So before that, I was like pumping out. I was going around. I quoted so many jobs, right? I did up full marketing campaigns, website, everything, like made it legit. Like, it looked amazing, right? And I left going, fuck, this is it. I'm just going to enjoy this trip. And that's kind of it. And I jumped on the plane, went over, and was just having a hell time. And I got to the last day, and Gabby was like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, nothing. And there was a couple of times where I reckon I went up. Well, I fucking did go off to the bathroom and have a cry. I'm like, we're
Really?
fucked.
Wow.
Bro, my cars are getting repoed. Like, I'm going, like, I'm 20 and going to be fucked. Like, I thought I was a king.
Yeah.
And so we got home, hopped off the tarmac, collected our bags, and Gabby's like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. And I turned on my phone, and I had 15 missed calls. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and it was from this one doctor, right? Because I went to this ring of doctors. I got introduced to them, and they obviously have a lot of money, right? And I went and quoted a lot of jobs, extensions. There was a new build. There was a renovation. This guy wanted investment properties renovated and so forth. And I was like, yeah, cool. So anyway, it was them. They were in the missed calls.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, just listen to my voicemail. So listen to my voicemails. And it was, hey, Joey, just give me a buzz. All good to go ahead with the job. I'm like, fuck. So anyway, I start ringing them back, and I'm hustling like straight away. I hop off the tarmac. I'm into it. And I secured 5 jobs, got approved.
Really?
Yeah, and the profit out of that first 5 jobs was 500,000.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
500,000.
500 grand, bro. So that was because I was kind of just didn't really have anything to lose. Like, they were pretty big jobs, right? Some of them.
So how did you get these jobs? Like, how did you even get in the door to quote them?
I had clients from that previous business. So there was people that I got introduced to and so forth. And, you know, it's that their circle of doctors still today. They're really lovely. I still speak to them people. But they didn't want the job then. They wanted it later, you know, and then when that company closed down, they called me. They're like, what's going on? Like, can you come quote it? I'm like, yeah, sweet. So kind of went from there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That you've ridden a pretty crazy roller coaster.
Yeah. It was
highs
wild,
and lows
man.
and highs and lows.
100%.
Mate, how do you keep your sanity through those times when you experience some pretty cool highs and then next minute you're back on your ass?
Yeah. My partner, bro, Gabby.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's solid. Like, I know you have a partner and...
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Sorry. But man, she's my rock, eh? Like, she's pushed me like hard, and she's let me be free, bro. Like, if you're starting to date an entrepreneur, dude, it's a pretty wild roller coaster. Like, let me tell you. So, we came back, like, and that kind of all kicked off, and it was like I said, I made that money in that period, and it just kind of snowballed from there. In my first year, I turned over $1 million profit.
What?
Yeah.
How old are you at that age?
I was 21.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So, dude, I was doing loose shit.
Just fucking managing trades.
Managing trades. I started to get into, I found a really niche market, and, you know, I do a lot of coaching around this today. And it was with wealthy people that wanted to buy assets and wanted to make money from property. But unless you're in property, you don't really know how to make money. Like, it actually is difficult unless, you know, you're a professional in the industry. So and this was before buyer's agents and all that existed. So I used to go out, I used to find them the property with them. They used to obviously purchase the property. And then I would quote them for what I believe the renovation would cost. And then I would do the renovation, or the tradie army would do the renovation. And then I would help them like sell it, or they could lease it out. So I'd just point them in the right direction and say, you know, he's a fantastic agent, go with him. And that just fucking kicked off. Like, that inside that medical field, like that network of people, they were just like, fuck, Joey's doing this. Like, Joey just made this much money for us. And then the next person's like, fucking, you just buy me fucking 3, you know? Like, let's go. Yeah, dude.
Load them up.
Yeah, so I was charging them. It was actually really good at the time for both parties, but I was charging them percentage at the end. Like a success percentage. So, you know,
on the profits.
On the profits. And then I was charging them for the renovation. So I was keeping my company intact, but I was also making the money at the end. So, yeah, that's kind of what set me up. The tradie army set me up, bro. Big time.
Yeah. So, do you still run the tradie army? No.
I got rid of it now.
What happened to the tradie army?
Yeah, so it kind of keep going with that. It was I found that niche market, kicked it off, and I got bored. So it was
You got bored.
Yeah, I got bored.
Earning millions of dollars.
Yeah, I was just fucking stagnated, bro.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to do. I wasn't even buying property for myself at that stage, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know, man. I'm some 14-year-old kid. I left school. I didn't have any education around it.
Yeah.
Like, I thought you just bought one property and you just fucking lived in it and had a family. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess I just got bored of that, and I was like, hang on a minute. I can fucking do this myself.
Stop making everyone else's profits. Make me some money.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started thinking like that?
22, I think, around that. 22, 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, 22, 23. And, you know, I was like getting articles in the Herald at that time, and that was a big thing then, you know. I was fucking, there was a fair few news articles done on myself. And then I remember, I got a bit stagnated. Then I kind of remodeled the tradie army for that. That's what we were specializing in. So then I was advertising for that. And then I'm like, nah, fuck, there's more. Like, I need to make more money. I need to go. But I wasn't buying. I was rent vesting, dude. So what I was doing is chipping in. I ended up buying in with these people. So I was like, okay, I'm finding the property. Let's go bigger. How about I put my money in on this deal as well? And we do a JV. Wow. And we pump it out. Dude, I didn't even know. Like, I know this shit now. But back then, I'm like, oh, yeah, let's do a joint venture. Like, I didn't even know what the fuck this shit was, I was just knew that I could make money through property. And I knew if I did a renovation, I could manufacture equity. And it was just fucking easy for me because I was brought up like that. Like, I renovated homes. That's what I did. Yeah.
You could spot the opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so when did you close up Tradie Army? So
probably in... Like, when did I close that up? Would have been... Fuck, it'd be hard to say, hey? 5 years ago now.
Really?
5 years ago?
Did you sell it or
yeah,
just
5 years ago? Yeah, I sold off contacts and so forth, and I shut the rest down. There was just probably like I just didn't want anything attached to it. Same thing, didn't have the education, didn't know what was going on. And I knew that I wanted, I guess when I know I want something and I see it so clear, I just go for it. I don't give a fuck about what was there. It's just, I see it and I'm like, that's it. Bang, we're going there. Like, who gives a fuck? Leave that in the past. Let's move forward. And I could have, like, that thing could have sold for millions of dollars. Like, millions of dollars. I had a guy, right, call me before that and say, I want to buy the franchise off you, right? And I want to remodel it and do it all myself about it. And nah, mate, fuck off. Like, yeah, that was crazy, man. Yeah. So,
oh, wow.
So it got really stagnated there. And then
before you sold it, did you upgrade the BMW?
Yeah, we fucking upgraded heaps of cars since then. But I got stagnated, right? Gabby just was still working for a beautician at that time. And this is hats off to her, dude. I'm just fucking doing so much shit and I'm just under the pump and she's just, working at a job. So it would have been really difficult for her to see this guy. Like, and we're both young. She's like, I don't know what, Joe just runs a building company and makes money and fucking that's kind of it. So she was getting, I guess, lost in her purpose. Yeah. If that makes sense. And I remember her coming home one day and she was bawling her eyes out. And I'm like, fuck. And she's like, let's go around Australia. And I'm like, okay. How the fuck am I going to do that? I've got a business. I've got like fucking 80 subcontractors. I've got 5 guys that work for me full time. I subbied a lot out, so less overheads. And I was like, okay, we're going to go around Australia. How the fuck are we going to do that? And how am I going to run this business? I had this older guy that subbied to me, and I just trusted him. And I went to him probably about a week after this conversation with Gabby, and I said, hey, Rob, do you mind just running my business for 12 months while I fuck off around Australia? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we bought a caravan, an old one. Gabby wanted an old caravan, like the old Viscounts, and we renovated it and I tidied it all up, resprayed it, looked sick. And dude, we went around Australia for 12 months and I did not lift a finger. I was running my business from my phone all the way around, like the Pilbara, like Western Australia, Melbourne, like everywhere. We're just, caravanning around Australia, just living life.
How long were you gone for?
12 months.
Fuck.
Yeah. I did a forward drive, like specially built for this trip. And yeah, dude, we just did what we wanted.
I just want to rip up my entire life and study and do some other stuff. What are we doing?
And that was like the best thing that I could have done, like it really made me think. It made me miss hustling hard, like as in with the business. Like I think I took it for granted. I made that money and I was like, what's next? And then I kind of took it for granted. And then that 12 months with Gabby, just had a really good time. And we got to Queensland and Gabby was kind of like wanted to hang out with the family and so forth. So we had a break for about probably about 12 months we broke up for.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, 12 months. And I came back, was just working at the Tradie Army, doing that, just running it, and it was just normal. It was like I wasn't really going into work. I was just partying because I had that period where we broke up for, and then I was like, okay, I need to become a developer.
Jeez. There's always one.
Yeah.
There's always one, something else.
Yeah, that's right. So I started looking at opportunities to do developing. And I started to have all these people in between that time come to me and say, dude, how did you do the tradie army? How did you do this? Like, how do you go and quote these jobs? Like, how come you presented really well? Like, dude, we look sharp. Like, we were the fucking sharpest tradesmen getting around. Like, I always wore a collared shirt. I wore a dress shirt and it was labelled the tradie army. I wore these black jeans and I wore boots.
Beautiful.
So when I'd go quote the jobs, I'd go in like that. And then my team all wore really nice tradie army shirts. And then, like, you know, like they look really professional tradesmen, you know.
Which is rare.
Yeah, which is really rare. And all these people were reaching out, you know, starting businesses. Older guys were reaching out. Oh, fuck, Joe, you're killing it, mate, for a young bloke. Like, what are you doing that we can't do? So at that period, I was like, okay, there's a niche market here. I can help these guys and charge them, right? So I started coaching these guys inside the building industry and inside their businesses. And it all kept looping back to sales. You know what I mean? Like everything, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was teaching them how to sell. And whilst I was kind of doing that, I was going into the developing side of things. I started to do more JVs and I took more risks. You know, there was a couple of situations where I put Gabby and I in a couple of tough situations to on developments, and they paid off, and it was just fucking awesome. And it's pretty crazy when you look back on it. But yeah.
What over that journey? What's the highest point that you reached, or your best achievement, or your most favorite achievement, and your biggest challenge?
My most favourite achievement would have been Gabby setting up her business. So she owns a beauty therapist, which is they do eyelash extensions, so forth. It's called the Lash House, and it's massive now. Like, she has built that thing incredibly well. Like, the marketing and so forth, it's insane. When we got back together after that, we went around Australia for 12 months. She moved back to Newcastle again, hated job, same thing. And she said, I want to like set up my own business doing lashes, you know. And she did it when we were going around Australia. Like, she'd just do it for cash at like wherever we kind of were. I was like, yeah, sweet. And I set up the marketing the exact same way as I did the tradie army. All the SEOs, all the Google AdWords, like everything. I just replicated this thing into beauty. And because of her, right, it fucking skyrocketed.
Wow.
But that's probably my biggest achievement, man. Like, it's really cool when you build something together with your partner and you do it and you don't really understand it, but then you start understanding how to replicate something to get it off the ground. Do you know what I mean?
That's special.
Yeah. So that was pretty big. And probably my first couple of developments. Being young, I guess people, like, I always tried to look older or be older than what I was because I felt like I didn't gain that respect. Through developing, you learn a lot, man. Through business, you learn a lot. Like, you guys are in it. Like, you listen to older guys that might be in, and this is something that, you know, I've learned a lot. You listen to older people that you think, oh, fuck, they know heaps about business. Like, you know, I'm going to listen to this guy. And then you're like, does this bloke know what the fuck he's talking about?
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know, yeah.
I fucked up a lot from actually, like, tucking in, if you want to call it. Like, and thinking that they do. And it wasn't until I put my foot down and was like, mate, you're an idiot. Like, let me tell you how to fucking do it, champ. Like,
how did you even get here?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, I don't know. To kind of answer your question, I guess that was there. But man, I love learning. Hey, I really do.
Do you listen to books? Listen to audiobooks? Podcasts?
I listen to audiobooks. Can't read books.
Yeah, can't read.
Fucking hate it. It's not that I can't read. I
Yeah,
just
hate
fucking
reading.
hate reading.
Same. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
I'll listen to an audiobook. You will not find a book in my hand.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So what happened with you've started coaching people on what you did with the tradie army, you're doing JVs, then you start doing your own developments. Where did things progress from there? Like what was your next kind of moves?
Yeah. I took a risk on a development that paid off big time. I remember
When we say big,
big enough, like I made a couple of mil. Yeah. And it was
Really?
in 2 years. Like a year and a half or something.
What'd you build?
I built a subdivision.
Yep.
Yeah. And I did it. I took the risk myself. I actually went in to, I met up with the real estate agent, purchased this property on an option. And I kind of didn't really read over the contract at the time and kind of just went for it. I knew I wanted this property. And I remember scrambling for money to actually come up with this and try find investors. And yeah, that went really well, which then snowballed me into the next ones. And it kind of just went from there, dude. And then, Gabby and I were buying houses together and we were renovating them. And, it just kept kind of snowballing. And now it just flows. Like, it's just normal. It's second nature. Gabby, every house we buy, Gabby lives through this mess of a renovation and then it turns beautiful and then we want to sell it.
So you'll flip and develop both.
Correct, 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm now holding our properties. Like we've got a beautiful property in Dudley in Newcastle.
Yep.
And it's on the beach and I won't sell that property because it's in a blue chip area. It's on the beach next to the bushland. Like the only way that property is going up. Like so. Blue chip areas is where I'm investing my money.
Yep.
And renovations, man, I've done all the things. I had a chat to a guy about this, a younger guy. He's like, oh, dude, he pays me to help him in property, right? Like to coach him through the renovation and how to make money, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, I want to do a subdivision. Like I want to do a subdivision or I want to do townhouses. I said, but there's no money. Like the money is that you actually make more money in a blue chip location. You got to outlay a little bit more money, but the return's massive. Like my place at Dudley, like, we bought that for, I think it was like $1 million. And this was all before COVID, right? But it was like $1 million. We probably put with, my tradesmen and so forth, maybe about 500, 600. And the bank valued that at 3 mil.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Jeez.
That's a year, dude. Like that was in a year. Like, how the fuck can you make that money anywhere else? Like you put so much time and effort into, subdivisions and, a head fuck going to council and getting the DA approved and, designing the plans, architects, outlaying money and then possibly, not getting it approved.
Yeah. Are you mainly buying up in Newcastle at the moment?
Yeah.
Or that's where most of your stuff
Or Newcastle.
Is that where it has been for the past few years?
100%.
Yeah, all of it.
I haven't bought property anywhere else. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I bought property and I drove past this place. I bought property in Islington for 350 grand.
wow.
When people were like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? I'm like, all right, you just wait.
What's it worth now?
Oh, that same property would be worth $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's still shit, right? That's a shitty property, but like 350 grand back then to now $1 million, like, pretty good.
Yeah, compounding growth. Gotta love it.
So what's your current state look like now? Is it just developments? Or you got other businesses you manage or run?
Yeah, so I've got a few businesses. The one that, I spend a lot of time and focus on a lot now is sales coaching. So myself and one of my best friends, since we were kids, we have a sales coaching business where basically we target Australia's top 50 real estate agents and associates. And we coach people in property still. So still doing property coaching. That's a big thing. But yeah, I love sales, man. And I really teach, and so does Dill, is is being genuine, like selling genuinely. Like that's a big deal to me. Like,
and I think the whole world's moving more that way too now.
Yeah.
Like even you look at TikTok, it's the realness of it. That's where the world's going, especially with information and content that's given. They don't want it. I don't want to be sold, right? Like if I'm getting training, I don't want to feel like you're selling me on something.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to feel like we're having a conversation as mates, but actually learning from that. Yeah,
that's right. There was one thing, you know, a big thing that I teach, even like in the first week when we're teaching associates and so forth, right? If this is in real estate, is, you know, people entering into conversations, whether it's a prospecting call, whatever. They met someone at an open home, whatever it might be, and they ask how their day was, you know. It's like straight away, what do you do? Like if a salesperson says, oh, how's your day? The first thing that I think is like, fuck, sales resistance. This guy's trying to sell. See you later. I shut him down. But if you're actually genuine, like you get to the point, and I think, you know, we can all say, like, when you know someone's selling you something, if they get to the point, you're like, okay, I'll listen. And then if that person's genuine, what happens? The person on the other end actually drops their guard and then allows you to sell the product.
Yeah.
So that all comes back down to being genuine. You know what I mean?
Just be a good person. Just be a nice person.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the training and that sort of stuff, how are you allocating your time? Like, do you split it day by day?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So mainly 5 days a week, flat out sales training.
Yeah.
And coaching. With the property stuff, buying properties in blue chip locations, you know, it's mostly a renovation, you know, can be an extension and, you know, yard a pool and so forth. But I wake up at 4:35 most days and I get up, I'll go for a walk or I'll go to the gym. I'll come back, I set the trades up at about 6:37 and then I'm whacking on my clothes and I'm going into the office.
So do you still have trades going out now?
Yeah, for my own individual properties.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Do you still do much with the tradie army, or is that completely...
Nah, it's completely done. Yeah.
Okay, so...
Would you bring it back?
Nah, man. I think I've learnt so much through that. I want to do things for myself. That's where like my wealth's created and sets up me and my family. I love renovating homes, man. It's a passion. I love building things. I love developing things. But I love teaching people what I have done. Like, that's no bullshit. When I actually sales train people, or, you know, we do a lot of like high ticket closing sales training, right? And when I teach that, it's because I've actually done it. So I will never, ever teach something that I haven't done. People teach shit that they haven't done, or they'll do a YouTube video or a fucking TikTok and they'll be like, you know, talking about a development that it's like, dude, you haven't developed anything. Like,
yeah, I know. You haven't bought anything at all.
That's right. So
you haven't even got your pre-approval.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
It's very true, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So where do you go from here? Like, what are your next goals?
The next goals is to we're doing a lot of traveling at the end of this year and you know, moving into next year. So Dylan and I are going to be traveling, you know, all up the coast, targeting a lot of real estate agencies.
Okay. What
and
for?
Training their associates.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, you know, you've been an owner of Manor. No.
Senior sales executive.
Yeah.
No, not ownership.
Yeah. So,
you could if you wanted to.
So, but in, you know, in real estate, what you'll find is associates that you hire, you'll be actually hiring and firing a lot. Right?
Oh, yeah, we've gone through heaps.
Yeah.
We've gone through heaps. I think it took, so I've got 3 sales associates and an admin. I think we had to burn through probably like 6 or 7 different combinations to kind of get the right group together.
Yeah.
It takes a while.
Yeah. So I would take 3 of your associates and I'd train them how to prospect. So I'd make them handy. So whilst you're out making the money, which, you know, you have to, you don't have time. Like, you're a highly skilled agent.
Yeah.
and you're going and selling property, but that's what you need to put your focus to actually pay them or, you know, and support
Afford
yourself.
them.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, we do a week's training and we'll take, you know, minimum of 3 associates and we'll turn them into, you know, generating anywhere from 3 to 4 listing opportunities per day.
Yeah.
So, you know, some associates wouldn't even do that, you know, in a week or a month.
No.
You know?
No, not at all.
And
some agents as well.
That's right. And in that, you know, within that week, we give a lot of feedback to around that associate. And if they're not a fit, they're not a fit.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, man, you're wasting your time here. Like, or we're going to say, this guy's going to be a gun. Hang on to him. Yeah. He needs a bit of help in X, Y, and Z. But you know, we can nurture that process.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on that, Joe, with people being a fit and not being a fit? Do you think people, there's some people that have got it and will naturally be good, or can anyone be good at sales? Like, what's your take on from your experience?
Yeah, I guess that's like a bit of a tough one. Like, you know it. Like, you know, right, when someone's good at sales. But also on the other hand, you know, you can teach things if people are willing to learn.
Yeah.
I've got a guy that I've been training as of late, Dylan and myself, and he did not know anything in sales. He grew up, you know, quite humble and wouldn't have a clue. But he was so willing to learn, turned up on time, dressed sharp. Like, these are the things that I look out to, and then we can, you know, tailor all the rest. We can turn them into guns.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, that everyone would have heard like, oh, he's got the gift of the gab. And it's like, that's old sales. When you've got the gift of the gab, it just means that you don't shut the fuck up. And what happens? People are just like, okay, shut up. You're trying to sell me. Like, old sales mentality is talk. And so they don't get a word in and then you close them. It doesn't work like that. Like, you know.
So what's your philosophy now with the whole process of things?
Active listening is, as in like, how would I, what do I believe is a good salesperson? I think active listening and being genuine.
The 2 pillars.
Yeah. People tell you what they want. 100%.
Where do you think sales agents and sales associates go wrong the most? Besides not being genuine, what's the other biggest mistake?
I think when it comes to scripts and dialogue, I think people are just haven't been taught how to speak to a prospect or speak to a client. So they read these things and they try put on this voice, right? That is like, it's not them.
I did that for a couple of years.
Yeah. It's just like,
sound like a different person.
Yeah. And when you are genuine and when you speak normally, so speak how you speak, right? And, you know, you speak to Susie and, you know, you're trying to get a listing lead or something out of her. Just speak to Susie genuinely and I guarantee you she's going to drop her guard, like I said before, and she's going to let you in.
Yeah.
When she lets you in, you can start talking about the service or product that you have to offer. You know, whether that's in real estate or, you know, you're selling T-shirts. Like,
that's true.
So are you a fan of scripts and dialogue or not as much?
100% I'm a fan of scripts and dialogue. 100% because you need a plan, right? It's like building a house. Like, you need to know what you're doing, but it's how you follow that method. Like, it's how you follow that plan. You can follow it a million different ways.
Yeah, there's always one way that works. Beautiful.
Mate, biggest lessons in property development. I want to get into good stuff.
Yeah.
What's the biggest fuck up and what's your best piece of advice for those getting in it? Like, for example, myself, I'm at that stage now where I'm coming to you, Joe, I want to get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
What would you advise and what, you know, lessons can you share based on your experience?
Yeah. I think planning and due diligence on a property is major factors. Getting your right builder, like, you know, I was, I guess, what would you call it? Like, I was lucky because I had that background and I educated myself around it. But if you're not educated in it, you need to team up with a builder that has a lot of experience, and you need to trust that builder.
Yeah.
I think making sure that you have a really solid trade base, especially in times like today. So you would have noticed that, trades are very hard to get. And if you do get them, they're very expensive. So if you find a good trade, pay him right so you can keep him, but look after him, pay him on time, and he's going to keep coming back.
What's some of the biggest mistakes you've made with developing?
Biggest mistakes I've made? Biggest mistakes I've made is probably not necessarily mistakes. I think it's learnings, but is possibly blowing out timelines, thinking that I'm going to sell like whoever I employ to get to sell the property is going to sell it quickly or for an amount, maybe thinking it's going to sell for more, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get 1.4 for that, and I fucking get 900.
You're a typical vendor.
So I guess that doing your numbers, a tip that I can say is do your numbers really lean.
Yeah.
And then when you do your numbers really lean, the profit's awesome.
Like worst case scenario.
Yeah. And everything on top, you're just like, fuck yes.
Yeah, cream.
How good was that?
Is there a certain margin you look for with any development? Like, are you looking for a 20% margin? Is there always a set figure or no?
Not really. I crunch numbers on every development that I go into, and it's got to be worth my time, worth my while.
Yeah.
For instance, you would have seen maybe Dan, the property that I just recently sold in Merriweather, that 3-1 subdivision.
I saw that. Yeah.
So that property, there was about $3.9 million in 2 years profit. So that property there I purchased for $1.35 million. I had an investor that I still have today on that property.
A different investor from the
different investor, yeah. And that property I purchased for $135. We then did a renovation, which was absolutely stunning on the original Merriweather home. And we sold that for, I think, $235. So basically paid everything back and more, and then 2 blocks down the back were free. And, we sold that one for 1.8 and that one for 135 or something, whatever it was, So it made sense. See how easy that was to make sense of it? Yeah. So I was like, okay, so what's some houses locally that are prestige like the Merriweather house, like in that era, that's 100 years old, that home. And, stunning, renovated, had a pool inside the master bedroom, like half in, half out. So I guess we made it unique. What can it bring in? So I kind of worked out that worst case scenario, like I said. And then down the back was super easy because they're 2 new luxury homes. So you could soon figure out, put a dollar value to that. And straight away I was like, okay, fuck, it's worthwhile. I feel like when I enter in, and, some people might think differently to this, but personally, when I enter into a development, I've got to do quick maths and it's got to make sense. There's no like, but if we tweak this and fucking do this, then, we could possibly make this. It's like, dude, if you're fucking making $1 million, you're making $1 million.
Yeah.
There's no like cutting corners or fucking putting different skirting boards or fucking getting cheaper Bunnings paint or something to try to save costs. It's like, it either makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And people buy and go into developments without doing the numbers. Like, they do the numbers.
Baffles me.
It does. Like, they think that, like, people will buy DA-approved sites that are like townhouses and so forth and just go, it's approved and it's ready to roll. Just buy it. And it's like, you done the numbers on it? The fucking thing's going backwards. Like,
Never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Wow, mate, what a story.
Mate, crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
I guess last piece of advice I want to ask for is someone, this is a bit of a selfish question.
Yeah.
Someone in my position where we've got the deposit ready, we're ready to rock and roll to do something small.
Yeah.
if you were in my position, would you go for a small development, or would you buy something that's good to be rented out, like a really good, strong buy and hold?
Yep. So if it was a good, strong buy and hold, and you weren't necessarily worried about the rental return on that property, I would personally buy a home in a blue chip location.
Yeah.
That's maybe like 3 in Newcastle, right? You get properties that are the old, I guess, ethnic castles back in the day, and they're like 3 to 4 bedroom, and they're easy to convert to a 5 or 6 bedder.
Yeah.
They've got an old pool out the back, like, you know, you can make it look really nice. And you can spend anywhere from, say, 300 to 400 grand on, say, $1 million property. You're all in at 1.4, and you can easily sell that for close to 3 million plus.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's big, man. It's really big. So, like Dudley, like there is so many homes at Dudley right now that you can buy for 1.5 that are brick homes that are quite tidy. You know, like you go to houses and you're like, it's very outdated, but it's clean and tidy. You can buy it from anything from, you know, 1.5 to 1.8. You can do a small renovation on that and turn it over for, you know, 2.8.
That's stupid.
So do you not think that's easy?
Man, that's easy as hell. I don't know why.
So why wouldn't you do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the way that I look at it, because it's like you put so much time and effort. Like, for instance, another property, 50 Woodwood in Merriweather, got sold by a local real estate agent there. And I had that for a year, and I did the numbers on it. And this was one where I was like, fuck, it really needs to sell for a good number, like, to make sense. But I was, I guess, so certain on Newcastle being such a new area, like a new, I call it a new city, right? It's not a new city, but, you know, we've got people from Dubai that are investing in Newcastle. We've got, you know, you drive through Honeysuckle now, like as a kid, that there wasn't a high rise there. Like, you've got apartments everywhere, you know, so there's a lot of money getting poured into Newcastle. And I actually, you know, call it, it's Melbourne by the beach to me. Like, it's going to start being that way. I purchased 50 Woodwood for $2.05 million, and in a year's time, and this was going through the COVID time when property was high. So I bought it, and they were like, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot." And I'm like, "Okay, just wait." And I was traveling to Melbourne and so forth, and I was networking with a lot of wealthy people. And these guys were saying to me, males and females, were saying, "Joey, if you can build us a house in Newcastle, or you can, you know, build us a house nearby that is like our house in Melbourne or like our house in Sydney, we'll buy it straight away. We don't really care what it's, you know, what it costs." But their houses in Melbourne are cool. Like, they've got underground bars, they've got theatres, they've got fucking 5 garages. Like, so we don't have that in Newcastle. It's a market that we literally do not have. Like, go into Newcastle and show me a house that has a really cool underground bar, has 5 garage spaces for, you know, someone's Ferraris and Bentleys, and that there's nothing that exists. So 50 Woodwood, I got that DA approved and did some really incredible plans with a local architect for a house like that. Like, this house was like, holy fuck.
Wow.
And I was dedicated on building that property. And I remember we were getting closer and closer, and, you know, people were freaking out about, and this is only recently, people were freaking out about interest rates and all that crap. And I said to a local real estate agent in Newcastle, Chase Eade, he's a good friend of mine. I said, "Dude, what do you reckon you sell this thing for me?" And he's like, well, don't really know. What do you want for it? I said, "I need 3+. And he's like, "Dude, you've done like plans worth 60 grand. Like, you've got this thing down, bro." I said, "I agree. I think that it will sell for that." Anyway, he ended up getting the price, and it sold for a really good number, and I couldn't pass it up. So that was a property that, you know, I spent 50, 60 grand on plans and a DA, and I pulled out like 1.2 million in a year.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, you know, I get people that say, you know, like, you know, people like, "Oh, you know, it's like that was coming down." Like, people were not spending money. Like, that was when, you know, COVID was over, the rise was coming down. And, you know, people say, oh, you were just, kind of lucky. I wasn't fucking lucky with that one. That property you cannot get. It's got 180-degree views of Newcastle, Merewether Beach, Bar Beach, all the way up to Nelson's Bay. You can't replicate that property. The guy that bought that property, he used to live in that street. He's very, very wealthy. And he knows he can build his fucking dream home there and no one will have it. So
He'll probably make millions on that.
yeah, 100%. So when it comes back to these properties, like my property in Dudley, the reason why it's valued so high and I've made good money out of it is because I have done that underground bar and I have done the cool things. I turned into a 5-bed house. It was fucking 3.
Yeah, man.
And that's what people want to buy, the finished product. If you can provide the finished product, people will buy it. So when it comes down to townhouses and so forth, it's already overpopulated. You've got so many people that are getting into developing that are doing townhouses and doing, small 3-1 subdivisions and so forth. But what's not there is the luxury properties. Yeah. People buy luxury properties in Newcastle, they move in there and live there.
Yeah.
And
they'll pay big money if they've got deep pockets too.
Massive money. Look at the prices that are going through Newcastle at the moment. Like, what are we seeing, Beetle, in Newcastle?
No, I think they had the recent sale just like a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Suburb record.
Yeah, like 8 million or something. Yeah.
So it's, you know what I mean?
Crazy,
Newcastle's coming in like leaps and bounds. So, luxury property, I feel that's where it's at.
Where's your next move from here, development wise?
I'm staying away from subdivisions and so forth. I'm just not wasting my time and energy on it. I'm focusing on a lot of the sales training side of things.
Yeah.
And I'm buying properties that are in luxury suburbs that are run down, and I'm renovating them properties and I'm holding them. Some of them that I guess want to sell because it's a lot of money. I will sell, but I'm holding them. The reason why is my auntie bought in 3 doors down from me, and that property's worth $4.5 million today. She bought it for like 56 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're near the beach, man. You're near the ocean. Like, people, that's a sought after area. If you can hold on to property, that's where the real wealth is made. Why do you sell property?
To make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine if you hold on to what's happened over like the history of time.
Yeah.
Like, we'll look back and go, oh, you could have bought a place in Newcastle for $1 million, and it's like, or 2-3 million,
Yeah.
Oh, John Parade sold for $9 million. It's like, fuck, that joint's worth 100 now. You know what I mean? So
people can't grasp compounding interest. I remember there was I first got into real estate like 10 years ago, and we were selling a house in Balcombe Hills, northwest of Sydney. And the house is, I think we sold it for like $550.
Yeah.
And the buyer called me up the week later and he's freaking out. He's like, I've overpaid by 25 grand. Like, I can't do this. I've overpaid. I shouldn't have done it. Can I try? And he tried to get out of the deal and he couldn't. And I said, look, the rule of thumb is property prices in Sydney typically double every 7 to 10 years. He said, I told him in 10 years time, if this isn't worth over $1 million, I'll buy you a Macca's lunch. Anyways, sold last year with one of my colleagues for 1.74.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just can't. You can't grasp it and understand it.
No, that's right, 100%. And I even had a young guy come to me the other day. I pulled up at the car detailers, and man, this is one thing, hey, that I have respect for everyone. And one thing that if you ever catch me fucking doing is having an ego. I like, everyone's got an ego, right? But no matter who it is, I respect that person. Like this car detailer that details my cars, I stuck up for him. There was this, Merriweather mum, they call him in Newcastle, that was being quite rude to this guy when I first met him, and I kind of pulled her up on it. So this guy's been detailing my cars for a long period of time now, and the biggest thing is I always, I guess, have respect for people, and I never want to lose that. And there was a young kid the other day when I was getting my car washed. He's like, oh, how do I buy that car? I really want that car. And I just took the time to actually talk to him about it. And he was 15, right? He was working at the car detailers. And I said, what are you going to do, man? And he said, oh, well, my dad struggles. Like, he wants to buy a property. And I'm like, okay, switch on straight away. This kid doesn't have guidance. And he said, how do I make money? I want to buy that car. And I said, you can definitely have that car, but you need to buy assets. And like, man, I would have tripled, quadrupled my money if I fucking had that advice at fucking 15. And he said, so what do I do? And I said, well, I want you to go get a trade, right? Or a career. The reason why I say trade, whether it's plumber or whatever, you start, if you want to get into developments, you start to...
You're starting in real estate.
You're starting in real estate, and you're starting to understand how you can renovate properties and learn the ins and outs of it. That's where, you know, I was benefited greatly, like was starting a trade as a chippy. And I said, go get a trade and save your 5% deposit. Like, what is it now? I think it's 900 grand first home buyers and 5% downs. Is that right? Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. So, let's say he's got to save 35 grand, 40 grand, and then you're in the market, bro. And you're a plumber or you're a chippy or you're an electrician or whatever you might be, and you understand how to renovate this property, right? You've got a leg up because you don't have to hire trades. You can do it yourself, like a little bits, and you can start manufacturing equity. Yeah. The most money I made is just manufacturing equity out of renovations, man. I make a shitload of money from it, and I'll continue to do so.
I'm so G'd up from this podcast. I'm ready to go buy something tomorrow. I'm driving up to Newey tomorrow. God damn. Legendary.
Steak o'clock.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's get some dinner, lads.
Fuck
Thank
yeah.
you. You're a
awesome,
legend.
No worries,
Thank you,
brother.
brother.